Have you ever stopped to think about how life is a complete mystery? We're born, and suddenly we're here, living, feeling, experiencing, without even having chosen to be in this body, in this time, in this reality. All we really know is that we're alive, and that's it. We get so used to this human experience that we forget how absurd it is to simply exist. But is this really all there is? Is what we call reality truly the limit of existence? Now imagine for a moment that this life is just one part of something much bigger. That what we call me, this body, this mind, this story, is just a tiny piece of a cosmic puzzle. And what if our consciousness is just a drop of something vast, deep, something we can barely even perceive? Some experiences, like those that happen with ayahuasca, show many people that there is something more. It's not just a matter of belief. It's a vivid, intense feeling that reveals what lies behind our conditioned mind. Picture this for a second. You take a substance that completely changes the way you see the world, and suddenly everything that once felt solid begins to dissolve. Your name, your story, your fears, your truths. Everything starts slipping through your fingers like sand. It's as if the self you thought you were disappears, but instead of it turning into some scary void, a deep feeling of peace emerges, of connection. It's like you've returned home, to a place that's always been there, but you had forgotten. That feeling of ego dissolution isn't just some crazy trip. It carries a deep message. It reminds us that we are more than what we think we are. The ego is this structure that builds who we believe we are. And while it's useful for living in the world, it also limits us. It makes us believe we're separate, that there's me and the other, inside and outside, right and wrong. But is this separation real? Or is it just a filter of our mind? When that filter fades, even just for a few minutes, we touch a truth that can't be put into words. Everything is one. You, the universe, time, space, it's all the same thing, expressing itself in different forms. And look, you don't need to take anything to reach this perception. Many masters, meditators, and seekers have gotten there with just silence, breath, and presence. But these experiences with plants and psychoactive substances work like portals, doors that show us what exists beyond the mind. And once you see, there's no way to unsee. You might try to go back to your normal life, but something inside you has already changed. You know there's more. You felt it, and that feeling is the beginning of a new way of living. More connected, more conscious, more real. We spend a whole lifetime searching for answers to questions we don't even quite know how to ask. Who am I? Why do I exist? What is life? Where did I come from? Where am I going? But in the rush of everyday life, those questions start to fade into the background. We get distracted by bills, work, goals, problems, and we end up living on autopilot, thinking that life is just this. Be born, grow up, work, pay bills, retire, and then one day, die. But what if all of that is just the surface? What if behind all this chaos, there's a greater intelligence, a purpose we haven't yet understood? These experiences of expanded consciousness, whether through deep meditation, altered states, or even moments of complete silence, show us that there is something beyond what the eyes can see. It's like we crack open a tiny slit in a wall that always seemed solid, and suddenly realize there's an entire universe on the other side. And the craziest part, that universe isn't out there. It's right here, inside. The deepest journey you can take is the one within yourself. Because when you dive into your own being, you find the whole. But it's not always comfortable. Actually, it almost never is. Looking inward means facing shadows, traumas, wounds we've spent years trying to hide. It means watching the ego panic, trying to keep control, trying to convince us that pain is who we are. But when we move through that, something shifts. You start to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You're not even your story. You are the awareness that observes all of it. And that awareness is free. It's not bound by time or space. It simply is. And then, all of a sudden, the answers you've been searching for begin to appear. Not as logical explanations, but as feelings, understandings that come from somewhere far deeper than the mind. You begin to see that everything that's happened in your life had a reason. Every pain, every loss, every joy, it was all part of your awakening. It all brought you here. And from that place, you begin to live differently, with more presence, more surrender, more compassion. Not because someone told you to, or because you read it in a book, but because you felt it. And once you feel it, you can't go back to living on the surface. You can't accept a life without soul, without truth, because now you know there is something greater, something sacred, and that is also you. Once you access that state of clarity, of presence, it becomes impossible not to notice how numb we live in our daily lives. Stuck in patterns, in repetition, in distraction. Wake up, check the phone, work, consume, complain, sleep, and repeat. But when consciousness awakens, you start questioning everything. Why am I doing this? Does this truly nourish me? Does it bring me closer to who I am or further away? And then, what once seemed normal starts to feel uncomfortable. Certain conversations, certain environments, even some relationships. You begin to realize that many of the things that once filled you were actually just distractions from yourself. It's like your soul starts asking for truth, for silence, for depth. And it's not that you suddenly become a monk, isolate yourself, or abandon everything. You're still here living your life, but now with presence, with awareness. You eat differently, breathe differently, listen differently. You start living with more intention. And that changes everything. Because what used to be just routine now becomes ritual. Breakfast becomes a moment of gratitude. A shower becomes a dive into the now. A hug becomes healing. And even on hard days, because yes, they still happen, you move through them differently, with more softness, with more surrender. You understand that life isn't about controlling everything. It's about feeling everything and allowing existence to transform you. That's the point. Awakening isn't a fixed place. It's a constant unfolding. It's as if consciousness is always opening just a little more, like a flower that never fully stops blooming. And with each layer that falls away, more light is revealed, more truth, more love. Love for yourself, love for others, love for life itself, even with all its imperfections. And when you start living like this, you realize you don't need much. You don't need recognition. You don't need applause. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just want to live in peace with who you are, with what you feel, with what connects you. And that simplicity becomes luxury. Silence becomes treasure. Looking into someone's eyes becomes a miracle. Because now you see, not with your outer eyes, but with your inner gaze. You feel the vibration of things. You read between the lines. You notice what's behind the words. And then, what used to be too superficial no longer holds you. You're not entertained by emptiness. You don't feed on noise. You crave truth. And truth isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it breaks you down. But even so, it sets you free. And when you choose this path of presence, of awareness, of truth, there's no turning back. You might get lost from time to time, but something inside you already knows the way back. Because you felt it, because you remembered, because you touched a place within you that's too real to forget. And that place is where your essence lives, your soul, your peace. That's what we're all really searching for, even when we think it's something else. More money, more status, more likes, more stuff. All of that is just a symptom of a deeper thirst, the thirst for yourself. And when you finally drink from that source, when you silence the world and listen to your own soul, you realize you don't need to run so much. What you were looking for was always within. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a like. It really helps me bring more content like this to you. Now repeat after me. I have a millionaire mindset.